So, Mark, you're back from Rio Carnival. What was the craziest thing you saw there?
The thong song, man. I think it was based off of Rio. It was like thongs and speedos everywhere.
Thong. So, you just got back from Rio. Like we said, you had a great weekend there. We did briefly talk about it on 20-Minute Travel. You talked about Sugarloaf Mountain, but I'm sure you'll give us more information about that. But yeah, where do you want to start? I mean, sounded like an amazing trip.
Yeah, do you want to just like work through it, how we got there, and then get into like where we stayed and what Carnival was like, and then come back and getting home and any other pointers and stuff like that? You want to do it that way?
Let's start with this. I'm not up to date on the latest visa stuff. Brazil used to require US citizens to get visas, and then they did away with that for a while. And then they were talking about bringing it back. So for people who don't know and aren't up to it like me, what is the situation? I believe you don't need a visa right now, correct?
I think they bumped it again. So when we first booked this or planned this trip, there was like a new requirement that you had to show bank account info that you have at least $2,000. I guess they didn't want you to come down there and bum around. They wanted to make sure you had money. So that was like, okay, we're gonna have a separate bank account with like a local bank, a credit union or something. Just put a couple $1,000s in there so you can prove it. That for whatever reason they bumped it back again. So I think it's still supposed to roll out. I don't know if they will, but it's like in the next couple months, and they might bump it again. But that was like the latest. And as soon as we heard that we weren't going to need to do it, I stopped paying attention. So I can't even give you any updated what's the latest on that.
Well, for years I wanted to go there, and we didn't, with the family and stuff, because it was like $150 for a visa, and then you think about the added expense of that, and it was very bureaucratic, if I remember right. So it's good to know that it's at least better than it was, and even if you have to do the bank account, which is a bit of a hoop, probably not as bad as having to go through a formal visa process, all that stuff. So how did you get there?
Yeah, so it was tough to find flights there. Like we ended up finding flights home. And I think we talked about this. There was like a web special on American, and I was struggling finding both ways. But I had booked a flight home on American with Alaska Miles, just in economy, for 25K. I was like, you know what, I'll do this, and I paid for like main cabin for $100. And I was like, yeah, I'll just suck it up for this. It's the only thing I could find. And then a web special came out. One of the group members that was going on the trip was like, hey, if you book through JFK, it's 45K in business. So I jumped on that real quick before it went away. So I had that going home. Going down, I couldn't find anything. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll leave a day early, go to Peru, go to Colombia, do something like that, and then find a cheaper flight from there, try to go maybe Buenos Aires, and I could find flights to all those places fairly easily. But then getting from there to Rio was tough. And you don't think like Peru's going to be that far away, but it's a 6-hour flight and it's overnight and it's economy. And it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. Get there, spend a day, hustle, 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 then spend the whole night on the plane. So we ended up finding a decent premium economy on Delta, decent price. I think it was like 60,000, a little over 60,000, using the Biz Platinum 35% rebate, so 1.5 cents per point. And we just booked that like a cash rate on Delta, and then found another flight to JFK from Detroit for like $80. So we tacked that on, or it was like 6,000 sky miles, something like that. So the tricky thing was it was two separate flights. They weren't linked together because we had booked them at separate times. So if we got delayed out of Detroit, we were going to get screwed and miss. And then they don't have to do anything at that point because it's not on the same ticket. And they bumped our flight back. So we were supposed to have like 4 hours, and it went down to 2 hours. And then, of course, the biggest snow I've ever seen in my life started falling as soon as we were about to take off. Like it was like the size of a $50 coin. That was what a snowflake looked like. It was just like big chunks of snow dropping from the sky. It was wild. But we made it okay, and then did premium economy for overnight flight.
I mean, I think premium economy is perfectly fine. The flights aren't that long. What are they? From JFK's, was it 9 hours, 8-9 hours?
Yeah, that's long.
Yeah, it's long. It's long, but it's not like 14
I'd rather
hours.
go to Europe. Europe's shorter than that.
You can tell I've been on way too many long flights when I say a 9-hour flight, because the average person would just be like, oh my God, that's a long flight. But
I can
for
get to
me,
Italy.
14 hours is long. 12 hours, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So it was my first time in premium economy. I've done like main cabin on the way back from Europe on the day flight, but I had not done premium economy with like the little footstool that kicks out. It's kind of, I would say similar to a domestic first class seat, maybe not as padded. Like my butt started to get numb, which happens in regular seats, never happens in econ or in first class domestic. So it doesn't have quite the padding, but it's like a two person in our in the aisles. So it was just me and my buddy. We had the last row, so good recline. You have the footstool, decent food. The food was actually better than some business class food I've had, which I thought was kind of funny. It was just pasta, but it was tasty. And we hung out for a bit and then tried to sleep. And it's just hard sleeping and sitting up. And I'd wake up, my butt would be numb. I'd have to rotate a bit. And, we got through it. And then, of course, as soon as I fall asleep into like a deep sleep, they come around and wake us up for breakfast, which kind of ticked me off. My buddy's like, I don't know if I should wake it. We didn't talk about this before. So I didn't know if you'd be mad if you missed breakfast or if you'd be mad if I woke you up. So I gambled and I woke up. I was like, well, I'm not hungry.
No crappy plain breakfast is worth waking up from a deep
No,
sleep.
nope.
You learn that when you fly enough. Like they're never going to give you a breakfast that's going to be good enough to wake up for. So yeah, I always tell them if they ask me, like usually in business class, sometimes they'll ask you if they should wake you. I always tell them no. Usually I end up being awake anyway, but yeah, don't wake me up.
He got an omelet and it looked pretty good. And then he had some like chicken rice type meal for his main meal. I had the pasta. Both of us said it was really good. It was better than the AA flight coming home. The food I got on that in business class is better than Polaris food I've had. So, and this is funny, like the main cabin food, main cabin extra food I had back on Delta, coming from I think Amsterdam one year, it was actually better than I had in business class. So for whatever reason, that's more my style, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, I would say nighttime flight, not the greatest overnight flight. But if I'm coming back and I wanted to try it, a daytime flight, if you're coming back from Europe or that type of thing, and it's like a 6, 7, 8 hour, I think it's well worth it, and you can save a ton of money. I mean, you can get I think American for like 45K AA miles in that coming home, maybe 35K, something in that range. So definitely worth it at times. And I think for a daytime flight, I would jump on premium economy again for sure.
Yeah, I was just looking at flights yesterday. Still haven't decided on spring break in a week and a half, so this is great. But I was a little inspired to look at Rio. But I think it's 40K is what I saw yesterday for flights down to Rio with AA miles, and then Alaska was a little bit more if you have more of those miles and didn't want to do it. But it does seem like there's a decent amount of availability through Dallas last minute. But even when I was looking out a little bit further. But yeah, I got a little jaw. I was like, maybe should we go to Rio next week? That's what I was thinking. So we'll talk about that later because obviously this would be a family trip. But I do
Yeah.
want to get your opinion on that, on that aspect of it for people who are considering that. But you stayed at the Hilton in Copacabana Beach. Now, Copacabana, everybody's heard of it. It's this so famous for being this like wild, vibrant place, and you were right in the heart
Yeah.
of it. How was all of that?
The good thing here is we had a group, so I have a couple hotels to talk about on Copacabana. We stayed at the Hilton. It was 50,000 Hilton points a night. We got lucky. Originally, it was only cash, and then after a while, they opened it up for awards. So I booked 50K a night. I would not stay there again. It is kind of dumpy. It's older. I mean, you go in the bathroom and it's got a little sign on there: "Do not flush toilet paper. Put it in the garbage can next to the toilet, like you're in, middle of nowhere, Mexico, type of thing." And that's unexpected. And then it's just a regular trash can. Like it's not like a covered one or one that has like, some way to keep your eyes away from it. So every time you walk into the bathroom, you're just gonna look at, poop paper and smell it. And I'm like, no. So of course we clogged the toilet because we didn't listen to it.
The sign's there for a reason. This
Yeah,
is
I
how a
mean there
lot
was a
of developing countries are, by the way.
yeah, I know, I know. There was a bidet, so you could use that. Did that, but then whatever's left over, we're getting in way too in depth here. But it just wasn't like the lobby wasn't great. The lounge was the saddest lounge I've ever seen. We walked in there to check in, the Hilton Diamond check in. It's just a girl sitting next to where the food is. The breakfast didn't smell all that great when you walked in. The eggs were like super runny. We didn't go down for breakfast any other day. You could go down there and grab like a drink. They had some soda or pop in the fridge and that type of thing, an espresso machine. So you could do that during the day. They had a happy hour at night, but it was sad. There's a video that you can show of just like a cart with a couple bottles of wine and stuff, and it was at the end of Copacabana Beach, which was kind of nice when we were getting out because it was crazy, but there was just nothing good about it. There were two pools, one up on the roof, which was more like the party pool, tiny. and then one on the fourth floor, which had like the restaurant and a little bit more space of a pool and like an outdoor terrace area. But pools in Rio are not great. They're all, at least at Copacabana Beach, they're all on rooftops. They're all tight. The sun beats down on you there, unlike anywhere else I've been. So that's something to consider. I will say weather was perfect. High 80s, low 90s. Not too humid, but humid enough that keeps your skin from drying out and everything like that. So I really like the weather. Weather was great, but yeah, I would not go to the Hilton. Other people stayed at the JW Marriott, which was also 50K Marriott points, much better. There's also an SLH property in Copacabana, which I think is like 95K Hilton, which some people stayed before the group got there, and they said that was really nice too.
So avoid the Hilton. For all the Hyatt people, there is a Hyatt in Rio, but it's not anywhere near Copacabana. It's sort of out where the
It's
Olympic
like an
Village
hour.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they
We
built it for the Olympics.
We did have one person stay there. They didn't realize where where everything was going on. So they took the Uber back and forth. It's like an hour to get to Copacabana Beach. Uber's cheap there, like $20-$30. She said it was really nice, beautiful pools, pictures look great. 15K, I believe. I don't know if that was. I don't think that was on the list to go up either. So that's a Cat 4. I would say if you want to go to Copacabana for a couple days, experience that vibrant, party type atmosphere, or just the big beach and everything, kind of see what that's all about. I do that for a couple of days, and then I would go to the Hyatt. And if you're going with a family, maybe just go to the Hyatt and come and visit via car down that way for like a day or something like that. Because I think that's a really nice area. It's supposed to be an expensive area, kind of more resort feel, relaxed, chill type of thing. So I think that would be a good option if you did fly down there in a week and a half.
Yeah, the funny thing is that I don't want to hijack this about myself, but I was just thinking about how many years I've wanted to go to Rio and why I didn't do it because of the visa, like we talked about. And then I was like, maybe it's time since we're going to talk about it. So, yeah, I mean, you did a lot of activities. We talked about Sugarloaf Mountain. Maybe you should talk about that a little bit more here because you did say that was your favorite thing that you
Yeah,
did in Rio.
by far. Oh, one more note I want to make about the Marriott. They also had a lounge. It was awesome, and we all partnered up with somebody that was there. So the whole group was pretty much in the lounge. 2 of the nights, they would make you mixed drinks on request. They had beer, they had wine, everything. It was just much more, a more elegant experience, and you could actually eat there. Like it was a dinner worthy type of food setup. So you could go there, eat, not spend any money. So I think if you have Marriott points, that's where I would stay. Central, located in the middle of Copacabana, especially if you have status or a way to get into the lounge. I think it's well worth it. But yeah, the cool thing about Hilton was it was really close to Sugarloaf. Not that it's a big deal, but you can't walk there. So we took a Uber there. It was like 12 bucks, 15 minutes, and drops you off. And then there's a line. It's kind of like going to a ski resort. You get in line, then you buy your tickets if you buy them there, and then you get in another line to get on the tram that goes up. It goes up to the first mountain of Sugarloaf, which I don't know the name of it. And then there's also a second tram that goes up to the higher peak. So it's like 2 humps, and the second hump is much higher. The first hump is much more spacious, bigger, has more stuff going on. It has like basically like a little outdoor mall. It had like a Heineken truck set up that you're walking around that you can just go buy beer, walk around. They brought out a DJ. It turned into like a rave at night where there's just like 100 people standing there dancing outside, and all these little beer tents and food stalls and all this stuff. So it's like an outdoor festival, but they also had shops and knickknacks, the famous sandals. I'm not going to try to say the name of them. Famous flip flops that come from Rio. They had a huge store there. So there was just like a ton to do there, restaurants, everything. And then you can go up to the higher part, and they had a couple more restaurants up there, a few more things to do. And we sat there. Our goal was to get there like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and just kind of find a cool spot, hunker down until sunset, which was at 6. And we found the place that we ate at. Perfect views of Copacabana Beach. It was amazing. Rio's really interesting that it has a city. It has world-renowned beaches, and then it has jungle too and mountains. All of that within like a small pocket of each other, and you can see it all from up top here. And the food was actually fantastic. Usually, when you go to a rooftop type of thing or something that has these views, you're paying for that. The food sucks, service sucks, all that stuff. We had filet and then a fish, both $20 to $22. The four of us with, who knows how many rounds of drinks we did. And the food, it was like $140 total for like 3 hours of sitting there. It was insane.
And monkeys, right? There were monkeys
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, there's lemur monkeys. There's trees right there. So they come running down the pole. I think like a whole family walked by, hung out there for a bit, four of them. So cool. We saw them throughout the island too. They'd be out just like coming down a tree, trying to grab some food off the ground and stuff. Super, super neat to see. So that was awesome. We're sitting there having a beer, looking at the sunset. You can see Christ Redeemer, like perfect view from dinner as the sun sets. It's all lit up. And then at night, you can see it. They put lights on it. So you can see that, lemur monkeys, food, beer, Christ Redeemer, sunset, Copacabana Beach. I mean, it doesn't get any better. This was like top 3 dining experiences I think I've ever had.
And you said to buy the front of the line or the VIP for the
Yes.
tram, right? Because the lines
100.
get super crazy.
100%. There was, and I talked to our buddy Brian, who lived in Rio, grew up in Rio, goes back quite often. He hasn't been to up Sugarloaf in like 10 years, but he said usually there's like an hour wait if you're going down, if you buy just a regular pass. And you can buy the pass when you get there, or you can buy it online. Their website is very clunky. It sucks. It's frustrating. So you might have to try a couple times over a couple days. So get in advance. And I wouldn't even do the tour, Viator or all those sell tour tickets. I wouldn't do that because you want to spend a couple hours up here. You don't want to be up there for 45 minutes and have the guys say, let's go. So you can buy it from their website. I think it's like $30 US for the regular one. It's $50 for Skip the Line. And the cool thing about this is it's Skip the Line both ways for all mountains, like the one going up to the first one, second one, all the way down. And when we went to leave, it closes at like 8 and people were still trying to come up, even to the top part. We go down to the second mountain and there's a line wrapped around the entire mountain, like through places we didn't even know existed, because there's like a little bit of steps going down. It's a jungle. It's a really unique place. It had to be 2 to 3 hours. And we just walked right in front of all of them, showed our little wristband. They dropped the rope, let us on the very next cart down. We were down in less than 10 minutes, going from the tippy top to the ground. Spend the money, well worth it. If I was with a group, I would have gone back there at least one more time and had dinner there again. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Sounds amazing. And I think that's a good example of when you should spend a little bit of money to save your sanity and to, preserve your time too. I don't think anybody wants to stand in a 3-hour line to ride a cable car down at the end of a night, whether it just sort of ruins the whole vibe.
If you walk by anybody in that line and said for $20, you could go right now. I think everybody would have taken it.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. They should charge $40 for it in line. Just walk. They could make tons of money. So you talked about Christ Redeemer and the view you had from Sugarloaf, but how was Christ Redeemer itself?
Yeah, we actually didn't go up to it, but quite a few members of the group did. And I didn't do it because reading everything, knowing that it's Carnival, how crazy it would be. I heard it's just kind of a mess. Even if you buy the skip the line, all you do is get a skip the line up the mountain. And then it's just chaos coming back down. It's like a 2.5-hour ordeal, or at least during Carnival it was, just to get up there. And there's so many people up there. They said the views from there were better than Sugarloaf. You get a view of like the bay, the main area, and everything. They said it's stunning. When you like are under it, it's cool to see it up close. But everybody kind of likes Sugarloaf better if you're going to go do something, one or the other, because there's more offered there. It's not just to go take a view. Like, do you want to spend 2.5 hours going to, take a picture under it and then a view of the city? I wouldn't. One of our Uber drivers said, if you go up when it's not Carnival or not a busy time, it's much easier and not as big of a deal. Funny thing is, we saw like the main beach on Thursday, no people there. On Friday, when Carnival officially like started kicking off, I guess you couldn't even see the sand. And we literally drove by it and then saw it from Sugarloaf, and there was not one person. I don't know if it was blocked off because of this, but then the next day people went up to Sugarloaf and it was like 1 million people on the beach. It was insane.
I feel like that's all the pictures I've ever seen of the beach there. It's always like packed with people. And it reminds me of growing up in Southern California where the beaches are often like that. Not my kind of beach. I like a more relaxed, tranquil beach. But I guess Copacabana is really the party beach, right? I mean, it's known for that. So that's why you go there.
Yeah, it was busy. Like Thursday, it was not super busy on the beach. It looked pretty normal. On Friday, it started to pick up. Saturday, very busy. Sunday, they had a blocko, which is like a block party right in front of the Hilton. So it was super busy that day. On Monday, they had it down by the JW. So you see like 100,000 people kind of scattered around there. But I think if you go non-carnival, it will be busy and vibrant, but not overly busy. And the cool thing, one thing they do at the beach there that I've never noticed anywhere else, at least, is they have like hoses going down to the water with little holes in it so water sprays out so you can walk. That's like the path to walk so your feet don't burn on the sand. So they wet like these trails, and everybody walks on those. And then there's a bartender set up like down by the water, people with coolers selling beers and everything. So you can get anything you need while you're down there. But also up by the road, every 20 yards, there's a different beach bar. I've never seen anything like it. That there's You could just bar hop the beach bars at Copacabana Beach and hit like 20 of them, and they all have excellent food. We did like meat skewers, which I have a video of. One night we did, all kinds of different stuff. We were eating all over the place, and it was all excellent. Service was pretty good. English, I will say, is not the best in Rio, especially not even like in the hotels and stuff. Worse than Mexico City almost, which I was surprised on. And even if you try to talk in Portuguese, they don't get it because the accent is so different. You try to say Portuguese words in Spanish type of saying, and they're like, you could be saying like vino blanco, and they're like, what?
That's funny. It's so funny because Portuguese and Spanish are very similar when you read them. The words,
Yeah.
I mean, if you know Spanish, you could read Portuguese pretty well but when you listen, there's such different languages in the
Yeah.
way they're spoken. And then, like as you say, the Brazilians speak it very different than the Portuguese do. And it's cool. I'm kind of surprised to hear though about the English too, because I've met a lot of Brazilians over the years traveling, and they all speak very good English. But I guess it just really depends in that country where you come from, what your education
Yeah.
level is, and stuff like that.
Yeah, big time because the Uber driver we had back to the airport spoke really good English. He had lived in the U.S. for several years, so he was kind of going through it. He's like, they teach it in school, but the schools aren't the best. If you have some money and they go to private school, they speak it better. So I think it would depend the area you're in and who you're dealing with and stuff like that. But it's mostly like Copacabana Beach felt more, even though it's a big tourist attraction, felt more like locals hanging out at the beach. Like there's outside of the beach bars, there's these bathrooms that you have to go down steps. It's disgusting, kind of. But it's like underground bathrooms. They stand there with like, even at night, they stand there with a credit card swiper that you have to pay 4 real, which is basically nothing. But you have to pay it to go in. And somebody sits down there all day and it smells like pee because probably not the greatest plumbing coming from underground. And I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough to sit down here and just smell this all day and sit in a basement right next to like a beautiful beach. Kind of crazy, but yeah, Copacabana was really beautiful. But they have, it's always something going on. And the beach bars stay open until like 2 a.m., which I found surprising. If you go to like Florida, if you've ever been to a tiki bar, they close at like 8 or 10. So you don't expect a late night bar. They had live music. Everything you want is right there. And then if you go back, like off the beach, the main drag is mostly hotels, some restaurants. If you go back like a block or two, there's a whole nother like scene of stores and restaurants and bars, and you can walk that the whole way down. So, all of that area has a ton of stuff going on. Amazing food, very cheap, very affordable, similar to Thailand on affordability, I would say. And there's a lot to do, and I didn't feel unsafe. People are worried about Rio. There's parts of the city that look very unsafe. Copacabana, if you're within like 4 blocks of the beach, I think you're okay. I wouldn't go on the beach at night where there's no lighting. Something could happen there. Some people go down there and party and do their thing. I wouldn't go down there, but if you stay in the lighted areas, I think you're fine.
Yeah, I think that's a concern for a lot of people. And traveling so much over the years, you hear things about different places, and I've often found things are overbuilt, and just using common sense is good. But it's always nice to hear a firsthand report. Because I know Rio specifically, a lot of people worried about muggings, and there's been stuff like that. But like you say, pretty much the rule anywhere is use common sense. Don't get like inebriated and then go into dark places in the middle of the night. That's usually when bad things happen. So yeah, if you use common sense, a lot of times you can avoid most of the danger. And then, there is a certain level of danger anywhere, right? Whether you're in the US or anywhere you are, I've
Yeah.
been attacked on the street of New York. So there you go.
Yeah, and we actually didn't get, there was like no beggars, very few homeless people, and that was not up by the beach. It was like if you went a block back, you might see one here or there. And nobody gave us any problem. There was nobody gets upset. Everybody was really cool. Buddy Ryan thinks it was because he's like, the sun is the best medicine, and they're all tan and happy, and everybody's in a good mood. I will say they're very body positive in Rio, and like clothes are not very much. So if that bothers you, you might not enjoy it. I don't think I saw one person wearing a one-piece bathing suit in for females, and it was pretty much all thongs. So it's bikinis and thongs, regardless of body size, shape, whatever. So that's one thing. Men similar, especially during Carnival. Men, basically everybody's walking around without a shirt on for men, and wearing like little shorts, and there are tutus all over the place. I don't know what the meaning of that is, but guys and girls everywhere, tutus, crazy outfits. It was like Mardi Gras, but beach, I guess you would say. And I feel like that's kind of just the culture there. Even when you go into a restaurant, they'll wear like a cover up on their bottom, but they'll wear their bikini top, walk around, everything. So you just have to be okay with that. It's going to be a thing. They don't think anything of it. And, US definitely looks at it a different way, but they're just kind of like, hey, I'm happy with who I am. This is what I feel comfortable wearing. And nobody apologizes for anything, which I think was really cool.
It sounds kind of like Miami Beach. I remember a few years ago when Ellie was like 4 or 5, we were walking on Miami Beach, and she a little 5-year-old girl kept making comments about all of the thongs and the booties she used to call us out there. And
look at that booty, Daddy.
Yeah, she's like, why is her booty out? Because like in Miami, that's how it very much is. And I think it's great. I mean, it's their culture, vibrant, very happy people, very celebratory. No culture is perfect, but this one has a lot more fun than I think probably any other on earth.
Yeah, and like I said, there's people having drinks everywhere you go, on the beach, at the beach bars. Like, it just seems like anywhere is okay. Like, there's not a lot of rules. And one of the big carnival things you want to do, like, of course, there's the big parade, or where you go to this one area, it's in a stadium, and they bring the floats through. But the big party is the blockos. It's like a block party, like a moving party, where they'll have one. It's like a float thing, but there's no float on it. People standing on top playing music, and it's like a moving block party where the float moves slowly. People walk behind it. Vendors are carrying drinks. You can buy a drink. It was like, man, what was it, like 50 real for a beer, which it's 6 to 1 almost. So like less than $1 for a beer on the street while you're hanging out at a party. We went to, I'm going to say the name wrong, Ipanema, something like that. The next beach over. So Copacabana Beach goes in a half circle. At the peak, it starts another half circle going the other way, and that's Ipanema. So they're like bordering countries. I would say Ipanema is like the other famous beach, but it's more of like the local beach. That's the feeling I got. And the area around it is more like young party town type thing. So there was a Blocko there Thursday night that we went to, a smaller one, but it was just like people crammed in the street, slowly moving. And if you want another drink, there's at least 4 people standing within a foot of you that will sell you a beer. You definitely have to have cash, but you can get whatever you want, have drinks, and it's just music, everybody dancing, like enjoying being in a place together, feeling a vibe. It's unlike anything I've been to. Different than Mexico City, not as like enclosed as the Shout was, and just kind of everybody having fun, and you had space. You didn't feel too crowded. Every Blocko that I walked through, there was always, you weren't crammed and you weren't stuck because it's wide open space versus one square. So just a different vibe, but kind of similar.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And were there any other standouts from Carnival? How do you perceive it differing from, say, Mardi Gras in the US? I know you haven't been to Mardi Gras per se, although we did some pre-Mardi Gras stuff, right?
Yeah, we were like early Mardi Gras. I would say it's more fun. Mardi Gras is more like, okay, so if you like, you can go to Carnival and not go see the parade. We didn't go to the parade. The Blocko is more like, let's say Bourbon Street, like a normal night is just packed with people out on the street, but no bars, just people on the street, vendors selling you beers, and everybody's just music blasting, and everybody's just having a party in the middle of the street. That's more what it's like. Where Mardi Gras is more, you go stand in a spot and watch a parade go by. If you go to the actual Carnival parade, there's super different levels of tickets. You can pay like $30 and go where you have to go get your seat. if you get there at 9 when it opens, the crazy thing is it starts at 9, it goes till like 7 a.m. So it starts at 9 p.m., goes to 7 a.m. It's an all night thing. You don't have to stay there, of course, the whole time. But if you get there early enough, you can get a good seat and then go with another person so that when one goes to the bathroom, they save the other seat. They have little vendors there selling you beers for like $1. Or you can go up to where you spend several $100s. You're in a box. I think top tier has air conditioning, but they at least have a covered, sheltered area and stuff. So you can go as expensive as you want. And then they come through these schools, work on these floats and parades, and they compete. It's a competition. So they come do their show for like an hour, half-hour break. Next one sets up, does their thing for an hour, half-hour break. So that's how it works. And then there's also private parties, like the museum. Our Uber driver was going to the museum, and they were having like a lock-in from midnight until 7 a.m. where it was just a carnival party. So there's different ways to do it. You can
He
go to
didn't
the block
invite you?
parties.
What's up with that? What kind of Uber
Well,
driver is that?
it was the night we were leaving. So he's like, tomorrow night, that's what I'm doing. That's the best way to do it. And he's like, we're like, oh man, 12 p.m. to 7 a.m. How do you guys last? He goes, oh, we visit our friend Molly.
I'm sure there's a lot of that going on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like everybody's like free and fun, and it's kind of crazy. Most of the bars in the area close at like 2 a.m., but there's also other local bars that stay open all night if you want to do that. It's just kind of like however you want to do it, you can do it. And I think if you went to Rio, like in 2 weeks, totally different experience. I think it will be Copacabana Beach will be similar, but just way, way less. There'll still be the beach bars will still be kicking music, busy. The beach will have people, but it won't be the block parties really make it a different thing. And every neighborhood has block parties. So you could go there every year for 20 years and have a completely different experience each year.
Sort of reminds me of Guatemala back in the day when we were there for their Independence Day. They start the celebrations because I was living there studying Spanish for about a month before, and they start the celebrations a month before. And there's like parades. Some mornings we would wake up at 7 a.m. and there would be marching bands outside our window and a parade going by. And it goes on for like an entire month to celebrate this. And then they have a big fair at the end. So it's less like Carnival like that, but it's just like everywhere around the city constantly for a month. It's just a party and everybody does that. And I feel like, I feel like just based on what I've heard, Brazilian culture and the Brazilians I know quite a few personally, and that I've met over the years traveling and stuff like that. Very fun people, very happy people, go lucky people, and very accepting. It sounds like you were very much accepted and enjoyed this sort of as a tourist.
Yeah, everybody was really cool. Nobody got upset ever. There was no fights anywhere, nothing like that. It was refreshing and fun and like I said, everything is super affordable. So it is like, Asia level affordable in places. And the food is really, really good. The food scene's amazing. Of course, the Brazilian meat, very good. We even ate at like a Japanese place one day, and it was awesome. It was like, it wasn't quite hibachi teppanyaki, but they had that type of meals that you could have, or sushi, and it was all really good. So we didn't really have a bad meal anywhere we went. You go to a beach bar, you expect it to be crap food. If you went to a beach bar in the U.S., it's going to be like, fried food that they just drop, like frozen food they drop in the fryer. And this was all made fresh on grills and everything. And it was just anywhere you went, you're going to have something good.
Do you watch that Apple TV show Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn?
No, I watched like one episode and it didn't
there's like a
catch
beach
me.
bar in that keeps getting shut down for like health code violations, and it's just so nasty, and it's run by these like crazy, kind of stoner people and stuff
By
like that.
the Centurion Lounge ran by them.
Kind of like that. And that's what you expect at a beach bar in the United States. They don't care too much. Maybe the drinks are good, but the food is sort of an afterthought. It's good to hear. I mean, to go across the city to do all of that, the varied level of experiences, and then to experience good food everywhere. And then also to point out that it's a good deal. I think that's great. I did want to ask you about the airport as we talk about you going home and stuff. And that's what I was going to say. What's the experience getting to and from the airport in Rio? How easy is that and all of that?
One more thing I'll say on the other stuff is they add like a 10% surcharge most places, so they don't expect a tip. That's kind of included. If a service was good, we throw them some extra cash. But for the most part, it's all like in the bill. Credit cards are pretty widely accepted, so that was cool. I didn't even pull out cash the whole time, so that was nice. And then, the airport, getting from the airport to Copacabana took like an hour, but that was daytime. In the evening, Sunday evening, it was like 45 minutes, so a bit shorter going back. And it seemed like there was different routes going there and back. So on the way back, we actually timed it so we were going by the carnival when it was happening or right before it was happening. So we got to see the stands, we got to see a float, and they actually have like the one that you go to, you buy tickets for is for the rich people, the Uber driver said, and across the street is for the poor people. And it was more like just kind of standing area, and they had a stage, so they probably had a band playing in between floats, but the floats would go over there too, which I thought was kind of cool. And then we get to the airport. Parts of the airport don't really have air, so it gets hot. Like where we were boarding for the plane didn't have air, got hot. The American Airlines lounge was terrible. It was it was kind of warm, and it was like an Admiral's lounge in the middle of nowhere, U.S. It wasn't anything special. We went to the Priority Pass lounge. That was a bit better, but that one was a little warm too. And it's just like there is a lot of shopping and dining there, but it's hard to walk around. It's not the greatest airport. And then the best. Oh, we forgot to start with the best, Shawn. The Arrivals around lounge. Did you see that on Twitter?
I did. I did. Yeah, it was in like a garage, right?
Yeah, you go out, you leave. And now getting through customs and everything very easy. And we leave. You have to go upstairs to the second floor, across the street to the parking garage, which I will be honest is the nicest garage I've ever seen. Like the floors were spotless. You could like eat off of these garage floors. It was crazy. And then there's a lounge in the garage for arrivals. You have to have a platinum card or I think a Cab One Venture. So that's the different thing. Like the Priority Pass lounge, it was one of those Plaza premium lounges where you have to have a certain card. You can't just have a Priority Pass. So that's something to be aware of. Bring your platinum card with you. But we went in there because we knew we probably wouldn't be able to check in yet. Grab some coffees, and there's a shower there. You could shower if you wanted to. Just kind of hung out and all got together because we were coming in on different flights. So like 6 of us got together there, hung out for an hour, chatted, and then went to Copacabana, which took like an hour. So not the greatest, not the easiest to get around, but not terrible.
Yeah, because part of my concern, I've always wanted to do Sao Paulo too. So it'd be like if maybe to do a split, and then how convenient is it to go between the two cities? Obviously, there's a lot of flights, but you have to take that into consideration, getting to the airport, all of that stuff. But how was your flight home? This was the fight that you and Ryan were fighting about, right? I mean, your final.
Yeah, so he, I had the web special came up. I texted him, said, "Hey, do you want me to book this?" I knew he didn't have AA miles, so I was like, "I'll book it. You can send me some Hyatt miles to pay for it, however." And he drags his feet all the time, and so by the time he could book, said, "Okay, book it," it was too late. It was gone. So he flew like the very last row of the plane because it was a 2-seat in the last row, so he booked that, and I flew in the third seat. It was okay. It was the AA flight or the AA setup that has the seats facing both ways. So I think it was 777, which is not my favorite because the person next to me was a little bit larger. And whenever she would move in her seat, my seat would move too because our like heads were. Yeah,
they're so dumb. I've never been on one. I always get moved around. I'm sure I'm moving the other person around too.
Yeah.
But the fact that they installed these seats, and they've moved away from it with their newer products, but the fact that somebody else moving around can completely adjust your seat is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, it's not a great setup. So I didn't love it for 45K miles. Whatever, it's fine. So slept okay, whatever. And then we got back to JFK. Oh yeah, great story here. Get back to JFK. JFK has the worst backup I've ever seen for U.S. Customs, like Border Patrol, any country. I don't know why all the other countries can do this well. I never really get stuck in any other country. But you come back to JFK and it's just a madhouse of like, they're running out of room. People are coming down the escalators. There's no room to stand, and nobody knows where to go. Global entry, no line, of course. You walk right through. But if you were in the main line, hours. And I only had a 2-hour layover, so lucky to get through. But there's also mobile passport control. If you're flying with somebody that doesn't have global entry, you don't have it yourself, whatever it be. Certain, bigger hotels, bigger airports that you fly into offer this. Download it. It's a quick app, and you answer like the 2 or 3 questions that they would ask you in line, and then you go to the mobile passport control line. There's a line of like 15 people, and so you get through in like 20 minutes instead of 2-3 hours. Global entry you get through in 2 minutes. So if you definitely get global entry, but if not, check and see if the airport you're coming into has that. I tried to take a picture of the line just to show this, like for the show, because I wanted to show like, hey, this is the big line, which was crazy. This was the other one, and a lady freaked out. Like ran up to me. How many pictures did you take? Delete those right now. Let me watch you. You delete them and then go to your delete folder and delete them again. She made me do that. I was like, oh crap, I'm going to jail.
The people at the airports in New York are the worst. And
Yes.
yes, you shouldn't be taking pictures in a customs line, but there is actually no law that says it. And the only law says that you have to follow orders. And so
I think
don't
it's
know.
video.
I think
You can't take, I don't think you
Yeah.
can take video on border crossing, but I don't know. The words are vague, so it could mean photos. I listen,
Who
TSA,
cares?
they let you, of course, but yeah, I wasn't taking a picture of the agents or anything. I'm taking a picture of like the massive group. And she freaked out, you know, it was all uncomfortable. Everybody was like staring like, what the hell is up her butt? But yeah. And then when you get, you know, I had to go back through regular TSA again, and it was a horrible setup. Nobody knew what was going on. It was like all people in wheelchairs were getting sent to our line, and then all these people were going to miss their flight. So they tried to jam them through, and they're like, we already have all the wheelchair people here. You know, move them over there. I waited a good 20 minutes at the belt with my bag before it would move anywhere. It was just JFK is the worst.
I think one of the problems that they get backed up to is because of the terminal setups there, because they have to have international crossings in every single terminal. And instead of having a central area where you could staff it properly. So,
Yeah.
you know, if one airline or one group of airlines in one terminal gets a rush, but they have to staff all of these different crossings, like 5 or 6 of them, I think, in JFK. So I don't know. Maybe there's not 5 or 6, but I always think airports that have a central kind of immigration, they tend to be better because my theory is that they can staff everything centrally as opposed to having 6 different ones in 6 parts of the airport that they
Well,
can
you
only
know-
staff in a limited way.
You know where the flights are coming, and there is enough. There's like 30 booths, but you only have like 10 agents working. It's like you could have pulled some from somewhere else.
My least favorite, I mean, there are other countries that have. I was shocked when I went to Japan last year. I've never encountered a line going into Tokyo, like maybe a 5-minute line. And last year it was like over an hour. And it was just because of all their rules that they had come up with the pandemic and stuff. And then they were still trying to, like, some of them were still on the books. And it created all this bureaucratic process. I don't know. It's like my least favorite. The nice thing about global entry, or like you said, the passport app, which works almost the same. So people 100% do that. And you can do
It's
it ahead
free,
of time
too.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's free.
completely free. But at least when you come home now, you can just usually get through pretty quickly, which you don't have to worry about. And then I go, you know, to other countries and I forget about that because it can get ugly. Like in China, it could be hours and then
Yeah.
you're going to get patted down. And it's never like a lot of countries, it's not a positive experience crossing in.
Singapore
I
does
don't
it best. Singapore
Yeah,
does
they
it
do.
best.
Done.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
like you do it online, and then they just you don't even talk to anybody. It's just like a picture of your face. You walk through, and the weird thing is when you go back to the airport, they take a picture of your face. You walk through, and you don't even get checked till you get to the gate. It was like the weirdest experience ever. You can just go in and hang out and do whatever, and it probably because it's such a popular tourist area. But yeah, it was just kind of great. I'm like, this is the way it should be done.
Yeah, even in the days when they didn't have all that technology, they would staff those desks so quickly that there was never a line there. And yeah, it's people who don't know, there's a lot of high-end shopping in the Singapore airport, and it's basically a big mall and big stuff. So they want people to be able to go. My one thing I don't like is security at the gate. I hate that. I hate security
Yeah,
at the
it's
gate, but
weird.
they do have it there.
They-
But yeah, people can go and
They-
hang out.
They checked our passport 4 times within. I think I brought this up on the episode, but 4 times within a good 10 feet of each other at the gate. Like when you first walk up to the gate, checked it. They checked the bag. Then the guy that checked the bag also asked for the passport. Then another person double check. I'm like, you saw him check it. Do you think he can't read or what? Like, what are we doing here? It was insane, and there was nobody in line. We got there at boarding time, but the plane was already like fully boarded almost. It was just a weird experience, but yeah. It's got to be the least efficient way to do it, to staff it. But hey, if they want to pay it, I guess.
And they do staff it to your point. So they do pay
Yeah.
to staff people there. And so you can't really complain about that. So any final takeaways from Rio? It sounds like I've talked to you about a lot of your trips over the years, had a lot of conversations, and your enthusiasm for this seems to be a step above some of the other places you've been. So it does seem like you had an amazing time.
Yeah, I think, I would probably rather go back maybe without Carnival. Like Carnival's fun, more like, 32-year-old me would have probably like really, really loved it. So it's more like go, 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 where I think Rio, Copacabana, I think is always a little bit of go, go, go. But I don't think it would be to that level if you go any other time of the year. I would suggest January. That's their summer. perfect weather, but you won't have all the craziness of Carnival, which is like a 2-week thing. As we were leaving, it was going into the second week and it was getting busier and busier every day. So I would say shoot for that. Great food, super inexpensive. It would probably be easier to find flights and everything down there. Like Shawn said, you can find them in a couple weeks, and just stay away from the Hilton. But yeah, I would recommend it. I would go back if somebody wanted to, and definitely if you don't do anything else, go to Sugarloaf, eat dinner, hang out up there for several hours. Super cool.
So let us know what you guys think. Have you been to Rio, been to wider Brazil? What are your best tips for traveling down there? Make sure to leave a comment. Let us all know. If you're on Apple listening to us, leave a review for the podcast. But yeah, interact with us. Let Mark know what you think about his trip, and I will let you know. I still have to figure out where I'm going in a week and a half. I am insane. Don't be like me. And thanks so much for watching and listening. Talk to you guys next time.
Could be in the Bahamas like me.